Tactical Games Tac2Gun just wrapped up this last weekend, and Blair and I went to the inaugural event, which was at ETTS in Waxahachie, Texas. And it was a really good time. Only downside is that we only got to do 1 day of shooting. Sunday, it rained the night before and we couldn't get down to go shoot, only due to the weather. Vehicles were stuck and the ranges were pretty trashed, and so they went ahead and cut it down to 1 day. But even still, we got 5 stages of the 8 that were scheduled, so that was pretty nice. So Tac2Gun, this was a new concept to myself and Blair and a few other people. So there were some other people there that had done a lot more action shooting, 3-gunners and other competitive style shooters, and so it wasn't as foreign to them. But to myself and a few others, it definitely was a new thing. So it was kind of exciting to try something new. And so kind of going through it, what is it? By Matt Bergen's, who's the match director's own words, it's a hybrid of shooting and fitness, where it weighs heavier on the shooting than it does the fitness. Big differences and takeaways from a normal tactical games would be that in a tactical games you have 5 people shooting at one time and competing at a time for the most part. For the Tac2Gun, it is 1 person at a time, and they're the only ones that's shooting at the time because of how dynamic it is and the style of shooting it is. And so it's more movement, and you have a vast array of targets, steel and paper. It was pretty interesting. It was my first time doing something where you had a 2-gun action shooting style. I'm sure there's a group that's out there, like I want to say like USPSA maybe has like a multi-gun or a 2-gun, something like that. So that's kind of, I guess that's what you could compare this to. I've never done that, so I don't really fully know. But overall, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, we only got 1 day, but in that 1 day, we did get to do at least 5 stages. So it was pretty interesting getting to see the different dynamics. One thing that I really did enjoy was that we got to shoot a little bit further than we have had in the tactical games, which, you know, albeit that was probably the worst I did. I hadn't been practicing, and so I didn't do too well in the long range, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was nice to have targets at distance and really test that knowledge. Going through the different stages, the first stage that my group went through, group 2, was called the hold on stage. And what that was is you started going across a bridge, and you had to engage 5 steel targets with your pistol. And from there, you would drop your magazine, clear the pistol, holster, move up to the shooting portion for your long range, engage steel that was varying distance. I think the closest was like 115-ish yards, and the furthest was a little over 400. Then from there, you would clear your rifle, sling it, move to some kettlebells, and move kettlebells down to drop point, turn around, reload your pistol, make it hot, and then come back down, and there was an array of steel on your left for your pistol. And you either chose to move while shooting or find some different spots, and you would go and engage the steel at those different spots. It was fun, that part. And then when you were done with your pistol shooting on the steel, you would again clear your pistol and then move back to the long range, and you would engage the same steel, but it was in a different position. So it really tested your knowledge of and your experience with how to set up well, where to shoot from, and your ability to stabilize. And it was basically a fence, so unconventional supported positions, and so it was a lot of fun. Every stage had a 4-minute par time, so you definitely had to stay on your heels and be mindful that you didn't have forever to shoot. It went by quick, it really did. So 4 minutes may or may not seem like a long time to you, but when you were shooting it definitely was not a long time. In my group, the vast majority par timed on that first stage, the hold on stage. Moving from there, we moved to the obstacle course racing stage. How this one started, on the call of go, you would retrieve a sandbag, and then you would make your way up to a drop point, come back, and you had to go up it was like a culvert drainage pipe. I guess maybe it was 36 to 40 something inches wide. It's pretty tight for bigger guys, but we all made it through, even if we were taking bets to see if it looked like we were going to be like Ace Ventura. After you got out of the tunnel, you would retrieve your bag again, and then you had to traverse a balance beam section with some railroad ties and some 4-inch rubber beams, and some were pretty solid, but the other ones were pretty shaky, and so if you fell off at any time, you had to start back at the beginning. So it really made you choose if you wanted to try and risk going fast and fall off, or if you just wanted to play it safe and make it across at a slower pace, get it done. I chose to go a little bit slower. Didn't seem to hinder me too bad. From there, then you moved to a drop point for the sandbag there, and then you moved up to your first, and again, this was a long range rifle stage as well. And you moved up to your shooting position, which was a wooden barricade, and you had to engage 5 pieces of steel. Again, the closest one was around, I think it was around 130, and then the furthest was like 4 something. It was past 4, maybe 430, 440, something like that. And then when you got done with those 5 pieces of steel, you would clear your rifle and then grab your pistol, and then you had, I believe it was 10 pistol steel targets in front of you, and you had to engage those. And once that was done, you cleared your pistol, then moved to your second shooting position and re-engaged your rifle targets again, but this time you were shooting off of the back end of a excavator or like a bulldozer. And so again, 4 minutes, pretty quick. It was a good time. That was fast, so it was kind of fun. So with the different style, just kind of little obstacle courses, the shooting was fun. You got to try different positions, and again, tested your knowledge of shooting out the distance, reading the wind, and knowing your holds or not knowing your holds if you haven't been practicing like me. But Blair shot really well. She shot lights out.
Hey! Gotta be. Hey! Gotta see. Hey! Gotta be. Hey! Gotta eat.
Hell yeah!
On long range, so I was really proud of her. She did really, really well. So I'll probably be taking some rifle lessons from her. From there, we moved kids' playground. I forget what it was exactly called, but basically you had heavy machinery equipment on the stage, and you utilized it. You started on a start line, and from there you moved up to the track on a excavator, I guess it would be called. It has a big arm and a bucket, but it has tracks on it. I call it a track, like a tank. Tracks, and you moved and you had to shoot off of the back left track portion, and you had to engage, again, I think it was 5 pieces of steel. It was either 5 or 6 pieces of steel that was on the back end of the berm. And then from there, you would clear your rifle, and then you would traverse underneath the machinery, and then you would engage, make your rifle hot again, and you would re-engage those pieces of steel again, but from the front portion of the track. When you got done with shooting that portion, you would put the weapon on safe, and then you would move directly up to the next shooting portion, and you had paper targets on the right hand side, and you would engage those, and some of them had low percentage targets. And if you're not familiar, what that means is low percentage target is you have a cardboard IPSC target, and then you would have another cardboard IPSC target but turned around, so you would see the hostage side. So you would only engage the brown cardboard, not the white cardboard. Once you were done with the rifle side of that, then you would unload your rifle, make it safe, and then you would go to your pistol, and you had 3 or 4, I think it was like 4, maybe 5 pieces of steel again. Engage those, keep your pistol hot, and then you would run to the next shooting spot, and then from there it was all rifle, all pistol that was down the side. So you engage paper and steel with your pistol down that side. When you were done with that shooting portion, you would clear your pistol, holster, and then you would go under a front end loader. You would go underneath it, and then you would make your rifle hot again, and you engaged those steel that was on the berm once for the last time. And once you engaged those steel, you would clear your rifle out, and then you had to go and sprint to a cone that was about 100 yards out, and then come back, and so your time finished when you stopped. So that was a really fun action shooting style stage, and so that was kind of the first one of the event where it was just fast paced, real moving, going from targets arrays to going to different ones, and you really got to feel like it was, I guess that's what it's like, action shooting. Again, this was really my first time doing something like this. So that was fast paced and fun. That might have been one of my more favorite ones to do of the 5 we actually got to do. After that, we had a stage called America, and on that stage you had 2 shooting positions, and the first shooting position was all pistol. And at the starting point, you would move up to their first shooting one was red, and then blue, and then white. And you had corresponding steel that was spread out. I believe there was 28 pieces of pistol steel. And you only had a minute to shoot all the pistol steels. When you shot all of the corresponding colored steel, so you had red, when you shot all the red, you moved up to the blue, and then you shot all the blue steel, and then you moved to the white, and then you shot all the white steel. And I did one rifle match before this, and it would correspond to that as well. But something that I learned is that if you can reload on the move versus a static reload, it helps save time, because that way you're reloading while moving anyway, versus having to reload, go from this stage to the next one, and then you run out of ammo, and then you have to reload and then reacquire the target. But if you can reload while moving to the next shooting position, it kind of cuts down on your time, right? So that's what I tried to do. So after you're done shooting all 3 colors of steel, then you cleared your pistol out, holstered, and then you move to a sandbag where the women's was 40 pounds, the journeyman's was 100 pounds, and then the pros was 150 pounds. From there, you picked the sandbag up. You could carry it however you wanted. You weren't required to carry it a certain way, but I shouldered it, and I moved to the drop-off point. And then from there, you continued on around the corner to another bay, and this was your rifle bay. So this one you had to engage 8 pieces of steel. So you had in the bay, so there was a vehicle when you first got up, and that was your shooting area, right? In and around the vehicle. You had 4 pieces of steel that were on the outsides of the shooting berm, and then you had 4 plate rack targets. So you engaged the steel however you wanted, from either on above the vehicle, either hood or the trunk or wherever you wanted. So you engaged the 4 pieces of steel plus the 4 plate rack steel, and then you would move underneath the vehicle, and you would have to go to like an urban prone or some sort of modified prone, and then you would engage the 4 pieces of steel again. So a total of 12 pieces of steel to engage. And so what was interesting about that is that if you've never done urban prone, because you couldn't just go straight prone, the vehicle was too low to where you could just get underneath it and go prone. So you might have been able to can it a little bit if you tried that, but for the easiest part, if you've never seen what urban prone is, and it's where you actually turn your body and you actually are either going 90 degrees or just slightly angled underneath it. And there was grass and there was things that were in the way that kind of obscured the target. So you just had to trust that you knew where the targets were, and you just shot through the grass and then engaged the targets. So that was a fun little shooting position. I don't know that we've ever done urban prone style. We did do something like that the first year I ever did tactical games, but that was in 2019. So this was it was kind of cool to kind of switch up the shooting positions. That was fun. Moving on to the last stage of the day that we got done on Saturday was Fast and the Furious. So this one was again a multi-bay stage. You started on this was more of like a USPSA style bay. I came up with a plan, and it seemed like a pretty decent plan, and I was going to engage all the targets from 3 positions. And at the last minute, I changed it, and I learned the telltale rule of once you come up with a stage plan, you don't change it, especially at the last minute. So I learned some good lessons this trip at this event, and I will definitely use those moving on. But that was good. So I enjoyed that. So rifle stage, you go through. This was the only stage that you had to retain your mags. So from there, you shot all your rifle targets, and then when you were done, you dropped your mag, retained it, slung your rifle, went out from the bay, moved to a tire. You did women's and journeymen, I believe, had to do 5 tire flips out and 5 tire flips back. The pro division had to do 6 tire flips out and 6 tire flips back. Once you were done with your tire flips, then you moved to a sled. I don't know what the other divisions had. I just know what the pro division had, and it was a sled with a 35, a 25, and a 10. I think that's what it was. I'd have to go back and look. Anyways, it was a decently heavy sled, and you couldn't just pull the sled. So the trick, the twist they put on the sled pull this time was that you could pull the slack out, but your feet had to be planted before you pulled the sled. So you couldn't just drag it down. You had to pretty much either yank it, or you had to do like hand over hand.
That's what she said. Michael.
And pull it to you, then stretch it back out, then hand over hand. I ended up choosing just to try and yank it. I got about a certain distance down, and I just would take the slack out, and then I would just yank it towards me. From there, when you reach the the point where you got the sled across where you had to, then you entered the pistol bay. And you went through, did the same thing. You had to have a walkthrough, and you had to have it in your mind where you needed to go to shoot your different positions and your targets. And you know, I was pretty fried, and so by the time I got to it was the last event of the day, and it was we were pretty tired. And I'll be honest, I had a plan. I talked to some people, and I had a good plan for the pistol, and I think I shot it the way I wanted to. Honestly, I went through and I know I messed up a little bit at the end because I had to take a side step to the left and engage a plate, but for the most part, I got that the way I wanted. Then from there, you cleared your pistol out, and then you moved back to the sled, and you had to get the sled back to its starting position. And then once you were done, time was done. It was a good time. Got to see some people that we shoot tactical games with, and we met some new people that we hadn't met before. It's definitely not a tactical games. You're definitely not going to do anything like super strenuous. For the most part, it was just light work, a little bit of cardio, just enough to kind of get your heart rate up. That one stage where you had the sled, that was probably the most physically tasking one. The shooting was fun. It was new and exciting, different style, for me at least. I know that the other people, they probably do that kind of shooting a lot, and it, you know, but for someone who doesn't do a lot of action shooting, I had fun. It was fresh to me, and I don't know, it was fun. Driving back, Blair and I were talking about it. We're like, you know, we would definitely do that one again. It was fun. We definitely would like to do some more of those. So really glad we tried it out. And if you're interested in, and honestly, it's not a tactical games, but if you're thinking about doing tactical games and you are concerned about fitness or you're worried about it, this is a really cool way to get in, because the physical fitness level is pretty low versus the shooting. And so you get to test your heart rate, which isn't going to be super jacked like it would be in tactical games, but it's kind of like an entry level. So it's kind of like another way to try all this new style of shooting. But a lot of fun. Matt Bergen, the match director, did a really good job. Kudos to him. He's a tactical games competitor that him and I competed in an elite division back in 2019 and 2020 and 2021 together. So it was good to see him. He did a good job planning it. Then all the other volunteers that were helping in the background, they did a tremendous job. It was a lot of work on their part, and it showed. So really, really good job. Really excited that they're doing this, and I think that it has a really good chance of doing well. Definitely go and check it out. I got to try my new Hayes pistol for this event. I didn't get to try my new Sons of Liberty rifle, only because I hadn't had a chance to shoot it or even put an optic on it yet. Just been too busy at work. But I did get to use my Hayes pistol with a dot, and super excited about that. That ran really, really well. Was really happy with it. Extremely accurate with it. No complaints. That's it. I just wanted to try and do a little after action on the Tac2Gun event, the inaugural one. That's a fancy $2 way of saying the first one. So forgive me on that. But yep, if you have any questions, or if you have a wonder about anything that's going on, you can put them down in the comments. So I really appreciate you guys watching this and coming back as usual. We'll see you next time. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.